Let's go bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank. Will, do you agree or disagree with this? If college football was more like the NFL, I would trade Nico Iamaleava for Arch Manning. Straight up, I think that Tennessee would be better off with Arch, and I don't think they'd have some of the off-field financial demands. I know that Archie Manning knows how to do that, but I just believe that I think at the end of the day, Manning is a better quarterback than Nico. You?
I think he has higher ceiling than Nico. I don't know that he's definitely was not as developed this season as Nico was. Nico was further ahead of this in the curve than Arch was. Part of that's Nico was getting the first team reps. Quinn Ewers was getting the first team reps for Texas. Arch is a better runner than Nico, probably has a better arm than Nico. There's a reason why he was the number 1 recruit. Nico was the number 3, right? So he's the better overall athlete. And so I think maybe you could be, but early on, you probably would still deal with growing pains. I said this about Nico on our show yesterday. Part of it's the Quinn Ewers thing. He did turn down, I think it was $6 million plus to transfer to either Michigan or Notre Dame. We don't know which one. And then it was going to make $1.3 million from another marketing agency. So he was going to, a total compensation would have been about $8 million next year if he would have stayed in college. And he said, I've made $6 million already in college. I don't want to blow my relationship with Texas. So I said yesterday, if Nico's parents were playing, how I would play this if I were them, is, they have the apparel company they tried to get going. I would have had a brick and mortar apparel store over in Bearden where they have all the white lady stores. I would have had one of those set up already selling his apparel. I would have got, and I would already be talking to invest.
I actually heard this take. It was a pretty.
Yeah. I would have the investors already in line for a steakhouse, for Nico Steakhouse. And I would stay here look, I don't think he's going next year. I don't think he's good enough to get drafted where him and his family, or I will say not him, where his family thinks he should get drafted. He's on ESPN. He's not a top 4 quarterback for next year, and he shouldn't be a top 4 quarterback based on the guys that have come back. So I think he has 2 more years. I don't think the family's going to be happy about that based on what I've seen. I've asked this question not just about Nico, but would Tennessee not have been better off letting Nico go if he wanted more money and then paying the kid from Appalachian State $1.5 million to come here? Would you win more games that way? Because he's clearly more developed than Nico is right now. You were handcuffed by Nico's how green he was this past year. I expect him to take another step this year, and we'll see where that goes. But I think Tennessee needs because Nico is the person they put in the forefront and front and center when it comes to their NIL, Inspire, and all of those things, and it got so much media coverage, how much money he was making. I think there's an optics thing that would not go well for Tennessee from an NIL perspective, and I wouldn't want to lose that. But I also think if we're just saying just Arch, Nico's ahead of Arch in development today. So it would be tough for me to believe that next year, 1, I don't think Texas is taking that trade. 2, it would make it tough for me to believe that next year Arch is going to be better than Nico, but he could be.
All right, bank on it. I would take Arch Manning. You would take.
I would take Nico next year.
Okay. We'll get Caleb's thoughts. Bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial.
All right, Caleb, who would you take? Nico or Arch after what you saw last year?
I mean, I would take Arch, and I wouldn't have said that. Here's what I said going into last year, Will, funny enough. I said that Arch Manning was a better quarterback than Nico, but Nico playing in Josh Heupel's system would make him better in college than Arch. I'm changing that now because I think that Josh Heupel's system, look, you brought up Jeff Lebby earlier. Let's put it all out there. Lincoln Riley was underachieved significantly last year. Jeff Lebby had a really bad first year at Mississippi State. Josh Heupel's offense didn't look that invincible. They all come from the Bryles, veer and shoot system. That system looks like it's getting figured out. So I don't think playing in that system is as special right now if you're Nico Iamaleava. And with that in mind, and Arch Manning playing in a pro-style offense under Steve Sarkisian, I would take Arch. And honestly, I think Arch is going to be better straight up next year. And I wouldn't even trade Nico for Arch, though. I'll say that because, well, maybe I would, but I don't think it matters. I think the problem right now is Josh Heupel's system is getting figured out, and he hasn't shown enough creativity to tweak it.
Oh, yeah, they've been rigid. And at the same time, they won. So they went to the playoff. They won. It's hard for me to critique them a ton. But I agree with you. I think they're way too rigid in what he runs. The if-then questions, if this, then this. Let's see if they learn their lesson, because we saw everybody in the college football playoff who said, this is what we do. We are this, and this is what we do. Get their backside handed to them versus people who set up an offense and defensive scheme based on the opponent that they play. Did Tennessee learn their lesson this year? And we'll see if they did, because I don't think you learn – if you're good at your job, I don't know that you learn that lesson until you get spanked. Tennessee got spanked. Let's see if they learn, and let's see if Josh Heupel adjusts some things. I agree with you. People are catching up to the veer and shoot, so you have to have wrinkles to it, right? That's why when Levy had players at Ole Miss, I loved all the levels and crossing stuff that Levy was able to add to it. This year, he didn't have a quarterback who could throw, but he added a lot of rushing aspects to it that I thought were really, really interesting. So let's see what these people add to what they have and evolve, because they're going to have to. Look, I have said this on your show. I've said this on my show. I've said this on the Pennington show on Sunday, every show I've been on. I don't understand when they're in that 3-safety shell against Tennessee, and Tennessee says, oh, well, we just have to run into coverage and we can't get splash plays. Just beat them down with tunnel screens and smoke screens and flare swing, do things like that, especially when you had Dylan Sampson, and get them out of it. Like, I don't understand why there's a rigidity to that system right now, because I think that's part of it. What system can you run that you don't ever have to evolve or adjust? It just always works. There isn't a system in sports that works that way. And for whatever reason, Tennessee has tried to act like that was the case with this Bryles veer and shoot thing. If the veer and shoot alone was going to get you there, then 500 high schools in Texas would be unstoppable, right? Because there's a million people that were running this for a long time. What Heupel did was add a tempo aspect to this and move the H-back around as lead blocker and give some eye candy to the linebackers and the safeties. That's the thing that Heupel and Levy did. So they took the veer and shoot, added something to it. So to me, you got to keep adding things to what you do, because the defense is going to make an adjustment. These guys are getting paid millions of dollars to make these adjustments, and Heupel's getting paid millions of dollars to make other adjustments, and they need to make those adjustments this year.
So, sorry, one thing I wanted to throw in too is let's point this out. We know we are familiar with both families, having covered Tennessee. I think we can both safely say that Arch Manning's family wouldn't be the same problem that Nico's family is. Can we put that out?
I would say that it depends on what you are. If you're culturally, you're in the way, I think Arch Manning's family can be a problem. The San Diego Chargers found out about that.
Well, that was smart. Archie Manning didn't want his kid going through what he went through in New Orleans.
Yeah, at a place that's a dumpster fire, and as long as Spanos was there, and then if that family was there running it, it was never going. And they had that GM specifically. They were never going to win at a high level. He was going to hold it culturally. He held them back. So culturally, I think they can step in the way of things. But as far as maximizing the money, here's the other side of it, right? Who among us out there, if we're looking at it, saying, I can go somewhere and make a lot more money than I'm making right now? Who among us out there wouldn't say, I'm going to go? And other people doing this at my level, and some of them that aren't as developed as me at what I do, are making a lot more money than I am. There's most people watching right now would do the same thing that Nico's family did. Now, again, I am told by a half dozen people Nico didn't want any part of that. It was all the dad. I think that the family complains a lot more than they probably should. And I think this is part of what you're dealing with NIL. I think Mike Matthews' family complained a lot more than they probably should. At the same time, if somebody else you're better than is making more money than you, it's going to bother you, right?
Yep. All right, great stuff, Will. Certainly appreciate it. How do we follow your work? On the Twitter at Will West WNML, and you're on 3 to 7 on the Sports Animal.
That's right.
You're a great man. Have a blessed weekend, and appreciate you more than you know.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks. Will is just absolutely so good.